I used to have to do injectables like every 3 months, right? To take care of those pesky fine lines and wrinkles that I would notice would creep up. Or I'd have to get in-clinic facials. And then I started taking better care of myself and I noticed the frequency and, in fact, near elimination of needing those in-clinic interventions hugely reduced. And I was really shocked by it. And I think it's a healthier approach, focusing more on your at-home care, your lifestyle, not to mention it's a lot more time and cost effective. But a lot of people, they just want that silver bullet quick fix. They'll ring up their clinic. They'll say, hey, I want a laser for brown spots, get me in. Or, hey, I want a laser for fine lines and wrinkles, or I want this injectable. But I'm telling you, when you do the work at home, day in and day out, make good choices, be a good human, you'll need fewer in-clinic interventions because your skin will simply be functioning better, just like the rest of you will be.
Welcome to the Woman's Doctor podcast, helping empower women to embrace their body and soul's full potential. I'm your host, Dr. Trevor Cates, and after 22 years of working with patients, I found the answers to our health struggles are much deeper than most people realize. To help explore this, I'm interviewing colleagues and other wellness experts to get to the root cause so women can realize their true beauty and be informed decision makers for themselves and their loved ones. Telling a woman that she is radiant is one of the greatest compliments. That's because radiance is defined as a quality of brightness and happiness that can be seen on a person's face. We often connect radiance with beauty, and that's a good thing because it represents the light shining from within you, which is where true, authentic beauty comes from. Because we want our skin to reflect our inner radiance, I've asked today's guest to come on and share her top tips for skin radiance. My guest is Rachel Varga, who is a double board certified aesthetic nurse specialist with over 20,000 procedures performed. She's also an international speaker, host of the Rachel Varga podcast, and international clinical trainer for other physicians and nurses. Through education on at-home non-toxic skincare, hair care, derma rolling, in-clinic skin rejuvenation, and biohacking, Rachel helps inspire others how to slow cellular aging and enhance skin radiance. On today's podcast, we discuss beauty and radiance, and Rachel shares her favorite in-home and in-clinic skin rejuvenation options. She also shares her favorite skincare ingredients as well as top ingredients to avoid. This and much more on today's episode of the Woman's Doctor podcast. Rachel, it's so great to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you for having me here, Trevor. It's always great to reconnect with you. Been on the show before and vice versa. And I'm really excited to talk about the skin and skin radiance with your audience today.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to dive into also beauty, like true deep beauty, right? And so I love this idea that, you talk about not only do we want, our skin to glow, but walking in the room and you see a woman walk in the room, sometimes it's not just their skin that's radiating beauty. You could just see this beauty that's radiating from them. And everybody's like, wait, what just happened here? So, and you've got some ideas on how to help people really bring that.
Yeah, if we're going to set the stage for what I'm about to teach you, this is what I teach people. And I've been doing the skincare, the rejuvenation work at home and clinic routines and customization and planning since 2011. Academic researcher, international clinical trainer, super skin biohacking nerd, by the way. But it's this deeper stuff. So before, when I would go to an event, I'd have people coming up to me and say, wow, your skin is amazing. What products do you use? What hair care do you use? I love your outfit. But now what happens when I go to an event is I enter a room and people just come up to me and they say, I just had to come and talk to you. I was drawn to your energy. And so it's very different to go from the more superficial draw to this more energetic draw. And I would say that this is considered something called radiance, which is achieved when we are balanced grounded, centered, and aligned as much as possible, and body, mind, spirit, energy practices and biohacking practices as well running in the background.
It's a lot of work. It sounds like a lot of work. So where do we start?
Yeah, I would start with honing in your body, mind, spirit, energy practices. And the reason why I'm saying this is based on my experience. Having worked with thousands of clients since 2011, I would have clients show up to see me for the first time. They're in their 60s and their 80s, and they just have this energy. They have this exuberance. They have this vibrancy, this vitality that's really captivating to me. Because I'm looking at them and they look super healthy and their energy is great, but they're saying to me, Rachel, what do I do about these hooded eyelids or these sunspots or age spots or fine lines and wrinkles from living my best life as, loving nature and all of that? And then I started to just take a second and ask them what their lifestyle practices were. What were they doing for their body, mind, spirit, and energy? How were they moving their body? What were they doing to stimulate their mind? Hobby-wise, all of them had a spiritual practice that seemed to be unique to them, which is fine, but they all had a spiritual practice and they all had some type of energy or grounding practice, whether it's being in nature and contacting the earth regularly, doing Qigong or Tai Chi or other ultra grounding practices like that. So I really started to notice that there was this subset of clients that were doing really well, especially in their later years. And then I start to meet people like Dave Asprey, who is the father of biohacking, which is basically hacking your environment to support your biology. And then I started to notice, hey, these biohackers, they heal really quickly after lasers and after microneedling and all these different things. What's going on here? And then over the last number of years, after having been in two pretty rough car crashes, I needed to keep my inflammation down. I needed to take antioxidants and omegas and supplements to support pain and inflammation. And in the process, I achieved and received the best hair, skin, and nails of my life, which was pretty cool. So we can dive into that. But the basic practices for biohacking for the skin and slowing aging are cleaning up your air, water, lighting, electromagnetics, and Dr. Trevor Cates, the gut, detoxifying and cleansing of yeast, fungi, toxins, and organisms and parasites. So air, water, lighting, electromagnetic detoxing, body, mind, spirit, energy practices. That will take a long time to do and employ one step at a time. But once you have those dialed in, you will then, I think, be able to achieve a greater sense of deep beauty and radiance and slowing aging, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you're working with people, how do you incorporate all of this? Because there's a lot here, a lot of layers, and a lot of the physical kind of things we talk about, and to a certain extent, some of the mind, body, spirit stuff too, in my book, Clean Skin from Within, and then also in Natural Beauty Reset. It's a lot though. You still work directly with clients, and do you take them through all these different levels?
I do actually. I love one-on-one care, and I work with clients all over the place, like 90% US and 10% Canada, UK, and Ireland are the main places where my clients, patients, and community members reside. And I love to start the conversation with asking my clients, what are their skin goals? What have they noticed change in their skin over the last 5 to 10 years? And then I like to go a little bit deeper and ask them what their lifestyle practices are. Where are they on the quote unquote biohacking spectrum? Are they at least purifying their water? Do they have air purifiers in their home? Have they switched out their LEDs to halogen? Are they using red light? Are they detoxing with sauna practices? Are they mitigating their electromagnetic exposure by turning off their router and keeping their phone on airplane mode and contacting the earth? And are they detoxing? So I'll sort of go through those 5 to start. And I would say the other aspects of biohacking would be additional layers, but I like to focus on those 5 to begin to basically allow the body to be in a more pure state. Because when the body is in a more pure state, body, mind, spirit, and energy, all of your machinery will work better. You'll get less sick. You will slow aging. You will have some of the visible signs of inflammation on your skin, like redness and puffiness around the eyes, to the cheeks, reactivity to the sun, hair loss, breaking nails, low energy and brain fog. All of that will start to improve but it does take time. So that's why my client's secret best friend in their back pocket. They can email me for inspiration if they have questions. And of course, on the show, the podcast is really where I love to give just kind of ongoing updates and encourage words of encouragement to keep people on the straight and narrow on this journey of being high vibrating humans.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do you think are the most important places for people to start? If they're listening to you and they're like, that's a lot to do, like, what's the first step I can take?
A lot of times my clients are motivated by the skin. That's why they meet with me. What do we do at home? What do we do in the clinic? So with your protocol, Dr. Trevor Cates, you cover the basics of setting the stage for healthy skin. And we want to stabilize the skin through cleansing, moisturizing, sun protection, exfoliation. Your audience members already knows that from you. But starting to stabilize the skin before doing anything else, like retinol, microneedling, in-clinic lasers, in-clinic injectables, body contouring, surgery. I actually just wrote a paper on this algorithm in a UK journal called Journal of Aesthetic Nursing. And it's all about taking a more functional approach to this skin rejuvenation journey, a healthy lifestyle, doing some functional stuff, working with a practitioner, getting hyper-focused on your nutrition by testing instead of guessing what you should be eating. A lot of people say, oh, eat whole foods that are healthy for you. Okay, well, what does that mean? So that's where in the biohacking world, we can get super specific with different test kits that look at our gut microbiome, as you know of. You've studied this, I know. And we can eat according to our genetic predisposition. So we're eating foods that are actually healthy with us. So starting with stabilizing the skin with a basic protocol customized to your needs, starting to eat the right foods, and then slowly adding the air, water, lighting, electromagnetic detoxing into the mix one by one. You could maybe purchase your first air purifier 1 month, get a reverse osmosis in your home the next month, change out your LEDs in your home to halogen lighting a month or two after that. Start to make it a habit of keeping your phone on airplane mode, Bluetooth off, router off at night, as much as you can, even actually wearing electromagnetic frequency mitigating pants right now that are made of silver threads. Business on top is usually how I roll. Because when we're on our computer, we might as well be right next to our router, and that messes with the blood. So to start, we want to keep the blood pure. We want to stabilize the skin. And just every now and again, and when it works with your budget and lifestyle, incorporate one new, what you would consider biohacking or simply purifying your environment strategy.
Awesome. I love it. And I know that our people are going to want to hear from you about some of the skin rejuvenation options, because you really focus a lot on helping people keep their skin healthy looking. Like you were saying, like a lot of people come in to see you and they've been living life, right? They've been smiling, they're expressing themselves. So they've got fine lines and wrinkles, getting out in the sun, and it's creating. And so, aging is a natural process, right? But none of us want to look older than we are. And so what are some of the things that we can do to really hold on? We're going to be living longer and really enjoying our life for a longer period of time. So we want our skin to keep up with us. When I'm 100, I want, my skin looking as good as possible because, I'm just, going to be starting my life then probably. So what are some of your favorite at-home skin rejuvenation options?
Absolutely. It's a great question. And also my paper that I just wrote on skin rejuvenation options in the clinic, where I talk about lasers and things like that. That's actually an open source article that you can find for free and read it yourself. It's great. You probably understand it, even if you're not a healthcare practitioner. And that's at rachelvarga.ca/research. But in regards to at-home options, I love to first set the stage with your basic skincare protocol. And then for about 2 nights a week, for 2 weeks, start to incorporate different skin actives, such as copper peptides, hyaluronic acid, lactic acid, a little bit of gentle retinol. I don't like using harsh retinols. I find that they can be a little bit too disruptive for myself. I just don't do well with strong retinols. And then incorporating things like at-home microneedling is amazing. My clients that have the best skin out of all of them are those that have stuck with at-home dermal rolling, which is a practice that's been done since the 90s. And you can start to see actually a plumping of the skin even the next morning after it when you use the right roller with the right products, which is what I provide guidance on. Because there's a lot of really terrible rollers on the market that are a 10-20 use. They're full of alloy metals, and not like a surgical steel or titanium. Or up close, the rollers are blades and not needles. And I've even seen, even just locally in my small town here, a needle actually coming out of a roller and getting embedded in someone's face. And then people are usually just going on YouTube and picking up bad technique and using whatever influencer has influenced them to use on their skin. So I follow protocols that are tried and true since the 90s that give results. And so when I look at my clients that are in their 60s to 90s that are doing their dermal rolling, like I'll show you right here. Here's an option of one. This one has been manufactured since the 90s. You will start to see changes at about 3 months with new collagen laying down at that point and mature collagen at about 6 to 8 months. But I'm telling you, these clients that are religious with their skincare, with their dermal rolling, with their lifestyle, they actually have thicker skin than clients I'll see if I'm doing a facial on someone in their 20s and 30s. Their skin is literally thicker from this type of approach. You can also do a lot of at-home peels using super clean amino acid-based gel peels. It doesn't have to be harsh, and it can just promote cell turnover. I'm a big fan of being gentle to the skin, not being overly harsh to disrupt that natural microbiome. And also, when you're doing things at home, you won't have as much downtime also, but just as long as you're consistent. Consistency is king. So you could do an at-home peel once or twice a week, or if it's stronger, like once a month. That can save a ton of time and money from going into the clinic. And that actually really evolved just over the last few years with the demand and need for more at-home options, because it was harder for some people to get into the clinic over the last few years. So that's what I like to recommend at home, is the at-home dermal rolling, microneedling alongside at-home peels. For at-home treatments. And then there's some in-clinic treatments that I'm happy to get into, happy to talk about sun, as well as posture for beauty and radiance. And not to be afraid of the sun. I do definitely want to make sure we don't skip over that.
Right. Okay. Well, let's talk about that, because I know that's a big question I get asked often. Like, what about the sun? And I have a great aunt who believed that should never go in the sun, and she never did. She stayed indoors. Everybody else would be outdoors doing things, and she would just stay inside her entire life. She rarely went outside. And when she passed away, she really didn't have very many wrinkles. So there is something to be said about that. But I'm sorry, I really love to be outdoors in nature. I don't want to miss out on that. I love the outdoors. And it's, she ended up with osteoporosis and other things that, she could have prevented by getting some more vitamin D and sun exposure, right? So what are your tips on that?
I love the sun. And I'm on the West Coast of Canada, but like I said, most of the people I work with are Americans. Meet online. Hello. I love Zoom. I've been doing client calls since like 2017. People are like, what's Zoom, right? Just getting this information out in a one-on-one way, which is unique. And living on the West Coast of Canada here, I love the great outdoors. I'm an outdoor enthusiast. I 4x4 once or twice a week. I've actually been doing search and rescue training for volunteering behind the scenes in my spare time. So I would be that, Elsa looking woman who's a nurse / outdoor enthusiast helping you out if you get stuck on a trail and need assistance. This is just something that I definitely see myself doing at some point. So I love being outside in the sun. And actually recently I was in Scottsdale and Sedona and some of the mountains in Utah, and I got a ton of sun exposure and an elevation in the desert. And I'm used to water level. So one of the things that I started to notice when I began to look after myself with supplements and biohacking to reduce inflammation, I could go outside and not burn as easily. I'm what you would consider a Fitzpatrick skin type 2. And traditionally, I would just go red as a peach and burn like nothing else. And then once I started to take certain supplements that were designed for skin optimization that had antioxidants and omegas and other cofactors to keep things like pigmentation at bay, to help to reduce overall inflammation in the body, which will present itself in the skin, I was less photosensitive. And I really noticed this in the desert, having been working on my metabolic fitness with different things as well. I was wearing a sun protective dress most of the time and my runners. So it wasn't like the most stylish hiking outfit, but it kind of was actually. And I had a lot of sun on my legs and my face, and I did well. I did very well. I was quite surprised because I didn't want to slather myself in sunscreen. I did want the unadulterated life force sun, right? That vitamin S, the sun, and the vitamin D. And it just made me feel good. It energized me. But I always had my mineral sunscreen, only zinc and titanium mineral sunscreen on my face, neck, chest, hands. But on the arms, on the legs, I reveled in as much full body sun exposure as I possibly could. Now, that's not every day. That's sort of like intentional full body exposure, because it is not a bad idea to keep your arms covered so that when you're in your 60s, you don't have as much sun damage on the arms, which I see my 60 plus clients really complaining of. So it's a balance. It's a balance, definitely, but a big fan of the sun.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about some of the in-office procedures that you recommend.
I would say the first type of thing to start with is something gentle, like an in-clinic facial. And that's what I do for my clients, is I help them figure out where to go and what to do. Because unfortunately, with the medical spa system right now, it is its own system. It's its own conglomerate. The medical aesthetics industry is highly commoditized now. Most small mom and pop med spas are actually owned by corporate. And I actually just reconnected with one of my girlfriends. The med spas that she has co-founded is now owned by corporate. And the bottom line is the bottom dollar. And I have another girlfriend who's very involved in the changing of more mom and pop, physician owned, nurse owned medical aesthetics clinics to bottom dollar. And what happens with that is sometimes they'll bring in technologies that maybe aren't the most effective, that maybe aren't the most comfortable, that maybe don't give the best results for the price point and the downtime. I see that a lot. And navigating the in-clinic lasers is a bit of a minefield. And I've been very fortunate to actually, over a 2-3 year period, I was able to get my hands on most of the skin rejuvenation lasers out there, whether it's IPL, intense pulse light based for reds, browns, acne scars, or it's more erbium and resurfacing based for pore size, collagen, texture, stimulating collagen. There's many different types of lasers on the market. I have a very small short list of just a handful of tech I actually like. So yeah, it's really easy to show up to a clinic and have a pretty 20-something-year-old say, hey, get a package of 6 of, this peel, 6 of this in clinic, skin lifting, skin tightening, this, package of 6 laser for this. And I actually recommend taking a slightly different approach, doing more of the heavy lifting at home. So stabilizing the skin first, the dermal rolling, the peels, the lifestyle enhancements, taking the right hair, skin, nail supplements, supporting your adrenals, supporting your immune health as well. Because those FLCCC protocols, I'm telling you, when I started to do those, I noticed a huge change in my skin. And the other thing I wanted to really mention in our session here is I used to have to do injectables like every 3 months, right? To take care of those pesky fine lines and wrinkles that I would notice would creep up, or I'd have to get in-clinic facials. And then I started taking better care of myself, and I noticed the frequency and, in fact, near elimination of needing those in-clinic interventions hugely reduced. And I was really shocked by it. And I think it's a healthier approach, focusing more on your at-home care, your lifestyle, not to mention it's a lot more time and cost effective. But a lot of people, they just want that silver bullet quick fix. They'll ring up their clinic. They'll say, hey, I want a laser for brown spots, get me in. Or, hey, I want a laser for fine lines and wrinkles, or I want this injectable. But I'm telling you, when you do the work at home, day in and day out, make good choices, be a good human, you'll need fewer in-clinic interventions because your skin will simply be functioning better, just like the rest of you will be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for bringing all of that up. So of those, if someone was to go in and get some in-office procedures, I know we want to minimize those. What would you say or be like, this is 1 or 2 or 3 that I would still consider?
Yeah, well, then we're getting into brand names, and I'm pretty sure we're not going to want to do some free advertising.
know what? It's fine. I don't have an association with any of that. I know
Yeah.
you do. So I'm
Yeah.
fine
No
with
worries.
that. I just want to give our people good information.
Totally, totally. Yeah. The other issue with lasers is counterfeit lasers that I just want to put out there. The highest rate of liability within clinic rejuvenation actually stems from lasers, because you have a lot of places buying really low quality tech or even counterfeit tech, and they don't know any better, right? There was a woman who she emailed me to book a practice consulting session because I teach both the client and the clinician. And she's like, "Oh, I bought this laser. It was such and such money." I was like, "I have never heard of that one." So there are some really good ones out there, but it's also not just about saying what the name of the laser is. It's also how good is the technician, because you can very well show up to an appointment at a clinic that has a great piece of technology. But if the clinician doesn't pay attention to detail and doesn't get tight enough around the eyes, or misses sections of the skin during the session, or I've seen it actually with the neck, when a client gets the face and the neck with whether it's IPL, intense pulse light based therapies, or fractionated lasers, erbium lasers, things like that. Fractionated is the term of laser, and you probably heard of the brand Fraxel. That was kind of one of the first ones a long time ago. I do have other recommendations that may be slightly more updated technology. So based on when this comes out, there could be a better recommendation on the market and when someone's listening. And my recommendations are actually constantly evolving, because new tech is always happening. The way that it's employed and deployed is always updated. But there are a lot out there with skin lifting and skin tightening that I find really underwhelm my clients. If they've, before meeting me, had some things done that just really didn't move their gauge on skin rejuvenation. And I do have to be careful what I say for blanket procedure claims and brands and things like that, simply because this isn't medical advice, educational information only. Think you have a medical condition, you might seek the guidance of a licensed physician, because some technologies are better for some skin types than others. Some could actually harm certain skin types. So I do kind of skirt around that question in that way for that reason.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So really it's about finding a good provider and with great, excellent, up-to-date equipment that's really on staying on top of things, and ask a lot of questions. Don't just assume, and ask for probably recommendations from your friends too, because when people get good results and, they're
Well, I give that direction. I go to the conferences. I know who's there. I know who the keeners are, right? Because I sit on the board of the Plastic Surgical Nursing Journal, which is US based. So I know who goes to these events and who are the rock stars. So that's, tapping into networks is really helpful.
Absolutely. Okay, great. So let's talk about skincare ingredients that you love and skincare ingredients that you say, maybe not.
Great question. Why don't we start with the ones that are to avoid? Parabens, phthalates, sulfates, artificial dyes, fragrances. You oftentimes do have to check the company on the fragrances to make sure they're not phthalate free, because it's usually a little bit of like a proprietary secret. And obviously not testing on animals as much as possible. And the other thing is chemical sunscreen filters. So if you have a sunscreen, whether that's a hydrating, moisturizing sunscreen, a foundation with the sunscreen, a BB cream, primer with the sunscreen, or just a separate standalone sunscreen, if it has anything other than zinc and titanium in the medicinal ingredients section, that could be a blend with both the physical and chemical filters. And the chemical filters are very toxic. They kill marine life. Imagine just what they do to your insides as well. So we definitely want to avoid any sunscreen ingredient that ends with an own. And a lot of products, unfortunately, because every time I do a session with a client, I go through the ingredients of each product they're using and let them know, okay, use this one, or no, don't use that one anymore. And unfortunately, I see this a lot where the mineral and the physical sunscreens are blended, but it's marketed as a physical, as a mineral, so that you do have to look, and you'll get really good at this. If you're going to the grocery store, you're picking up your dish soap, your laundry detergent, you also want to do the same with this, avoiding parabens, phthalates, sulfates, artificial dyes, and fragrances. as much as humanly possible. And then ingredients that I love, it's not always just about the ingredient, because I look at a lot of skincare products and they say have like 5 hero ingredients, like vitamin A, hyaluronic acid, copper peptide, lactic acid, vitamin C, vitamin E, all sorts of ingredients. This can be a little bit of a marketing ploy, because you'll see those 5 hero ingredients and things and you might think that that's the ingredient list, but you still have to go to the actual ingredients list to actually see what is in it. So kind of a tricky question to answer, because it doesn't come down to just using products with key ingredients. It actually comes down to using products where those key ingredients are kept stable, because vitamin C can oxidize, especially from the sun. I did a session with a very smart biohacker. If I said her name, you'd probably know her. And she was actually using a specific product that the exfoliant was cornstarch. Or I see things like vegetable oil. A lot of you listening probably don't even use canola oil or soybean oil or vegetable oil in your cooking, but it usually gets snuck into the food. So I really care about the final formula. If certain things like antioxidants and vitamin C, like for example, yesterday, she was using like a $15 vitamin C. A really good antioxidant serum is not just going to have a vitamin C, it's going to have peptides. It's going to have different actives and agents like hyaluronic acid as well. It's not just about using a product with one ingredient. It's about using a product with a bunch of ingredients that's kept stable and that's actually going to give you the results that you're hoping you will achieve, that's written on the side of the box, and also doesn't break the bank and doesn't lead to toxicity. So I have like tons of products that I work with. I source out the best of the best. And this is a thing I do every 4 months. I actually go through when I'm doing inventory and read the ingredients list of each and every product, because sometimes formulations can change and they just won't let you know. So yeah, I sleep very well at night, knowing that I'm doing the best I possibly can here.
Yeah, it's amazing. By the way, the Spa Doctor, we don't use any of those harmful ingredients you talk about. We're very careful. Like every single ingredient in my products has a purpose. And some of that is the synergy. Some of it is making the pH correct, so for the mild acidity that our skin needs. And using as much as we can of the oils, the plant-based oils, and the full ingredient, the actual plant-based ingredient rather than an extract. We use some of those individual like CoQ10 or things. But I have learned so much being in this industry of what skincare companies can get away with. And I oftentimes have conversations with my manufacturer and she'll say, most people don't do this. Most of my clients don't ask me to do all these tests they don't ask all these questions. And in fact, I know sometimes people will actually change their ingredients. And if they've only changed a certain percentage of the formulas, they don't actually have to change the label. And so it's crazy to me all that I've learned. And so between being a naturopathic doctor and a skincare manufacturer, I've learned way more than I ever thought I would about skincare. So thank you for sharing what you're sharing and doing. I mean, you and I, we geek out on this stuff.
I've always really looked up to you because you have something called ethics, and you and I are not one of those practitioners and people that have a show and have a presence that are just doing this white labeling and selling garbage products. And I see this all the time when clients are purchasing this product from this influencer. I can tell right away it's white labeling. It's just not a good formulation either. And one of the reasons I really looked up to you I still look up to you. When I first met you, Dr. Trevor Cates in person a number of years ago, was the fact that your products were the first that I had ever seen that were specifically designed for pH balancing the skin's microbiome, which I thought was really impressive. And also your understanding of wanting products that work, but that are also clean. So sometimes we just got to stick with our guns. It's like being a biohacker and asking your electrician to take out the LED lights to switch to halogen. Sometimes we have to make these decisions that take a little bit of extra work in the manufacturing, the business process, the third-party testing. It's really important. And that's what I love about you. And that's why I've always really looked up to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate that. I wasn't looking for an endorsement. I appreciate that though. So Rachel, it's been so great. I know you and I could just keep talking forever, but we got to wrap it up here. I know people are going to want to know where they can go to find you. So will you tell everyone where people can find you?
Absolutely. Well, for those of you tuning in, Dr. Trevor Cates is going to be a returning guest on my show today, the Rachel Varga podcast, where we discuss all things body, mind, spirit, energy optimization for a higher level of radiance and beauty. Definitely get into the weeds a little bit with biohacking and a little bit with keeping you on the straight and narrow with different skin updates, research updates, dermal rolling updates, all sorts of things. It's a really great way to be in my energy for a period of time, listen on the go. It's very positive. It's very uplifting. It's very high vibe, deep beauty, radiant based. So that's the Rachel Varga podcast. I also warmly invite everybody to download. I have 5 free guides that I'm giving everybody here, and that's at rachelvarga.ca/slow aging. And one of those free guides is my 9 keys to slowing aging. And there's a couple basics in there for stabilizing your skin. And then there's also a couple basic, it's like a checklist for starting your biohacking for slowing aging, your air, water, lighting, electromagnetics, and some recommendations. So yeah, those are 5 free guides. Those are totally free. Everything at rachelvarga.ca, including a one-on-one session with me, including my seasonal skin camp programs where I actually take you into my washroom and I teach people how to apply their products, how to do their makeup, how to do their at-home dermal rolling, heatless hair care tutorials, grooming tips. That's all in my skin camp programs. And if you use promo code Trevor Cates, that gets you 15% off site-wide of everything. Now, you're probably thrilled already with your Spa Doctor products. That's okay. But you'll be learning lots of other really great things with me in a one-on-one call, seasonal skin camp, and also checking out my School of Radiance, which is where I discuss posture. It's almost like cotillion for adults. It's actually a really cool program, but this is how I teach radiance. So when you're at an event and someone enters the room and everybody notices, that's what I teach people. So all of the different offerings that I have, they sort of build on one another, and just slowly, piece by piece, you can add those layers to be your best version, personally, professionally. Life is easier for beautiful people. The energy and the vibration of beauty is beautiful. It's very soft. It's very feminine. It's also very powerful. The power of the feminine and beauty can be utilized to our benefit, both personally and professionally. You'll learn to have better interactions with yourself, people, places, and things. And in my opinion, how could that not help make the world a better place? So everything is over at rachelvarga.ca, and use promo code Trevor Cates for 15% off site-wide with me.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Rachel, for all the information today. Thank you for offering discounts and all of that. And I can't wait to be on your podcast. Thank you.
My pleasure.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Woman's Doctor podcast, be sure to share it with the women in your life and rate and review the show. And to learn all about balancing your hormones, join us for the Hormones, Health, and Harmony 9-part documentary series at hormoneseries.com.